What is up, and welcome to RadPotential. Today we have the E53 X5 in the garage, and we are doing something super fun. Not really, but we're going to install an OEM hitch for the back of the car so we can throw bikes in the back and possibly tow the M3 to the racetrack next year. So here's everything for OEM hitch install. There's some aftermarket options out there by Kurt and whatnot, and they don't mount up the same way. There's some horror stories on the forums. So we took our time to find an OEM hitch. They are no longer available from BMW, so you got to find them used or wherever you can, eBay. Prices are crazy on eBay. I found this one local at a part out shop. As you can see, it was had some surface rust on it. Yesterday I wire wheeled it and touched up some of the stuff that was a little gross. Anyway, we got the actual receiver, the bumper support that I think is a little bit different right here around the hitch exit. And then you've got the impact bars that support, actually mount to this inside the car or inside the frame rails. These extra mounts for the hitch, some brackets on the inside of the car, the trailer brake module, and the OEM wiring harness is included, plus all the hardware. So we're going to jump right into it. This is a 2001 X5, should be the same for 2000 to 2006. They're all the hitch assemblies are the same, pre-facelift and post-facelift. So first thing to do is pull the bumper cover off and the bumper support. There's actually only a few things holding it on. So in each wheel well, there is two 8mm nut or bolts, one here, same thing on the other side. And then underneath, back here holding the bumper support, there's a little trim piece around the muffler exit and tailpipe, and that's the same thing for the V8 models. It's just a little different shape, but you can pull down from the center and they pop right off. So once you do that, you look under here, there's a little cutout. Hopefully you can see right here, there's a little trim cutout in the bumper trim, and you can stick a E55 Torx up there, and there's a big long bolt that goes to the top of the bumper, like up in here, up to the bumper support. So there's one there and one on the other side. You pull those two out, and the bumper cover and bumper support will just pull right off. All right, got the bumper off, and I forgot to mention there is this little bottom trim piece underneath the car of the rear bumper. It just clips in underneath, so you have to kind of unclip that too. And if you saw me struggle, here's the clips that go onto the side of the bumper. There's no extra screws over here, but they just pull right out. So after you get those two 8mm on each wheel well and the bumper supports bolts, you just gotta grab it by the exhaust holes and pull it straight out, and then it comes right off. So next thing, we're going to dismantle the trunk floor. So after you pulled the floor out, it just lifts right out. Pull the spare tire out. There's a couple things we're gonna have to remove to get these impact bars. So the first is this plastic tray, which is a 10mm plastic nut there and there. I think that's it. There's just the two of those, maybe a third one over here. And then on this side, we'll have to pull these wheel chucks. This plastic piece, which is another couple plastic 10mm, and pull this little wheel chuck support out of the way. And then we'll be able to reach that metal bracket. And there's another one over here, which is these brackets. I actually have duplicates of them that are in front of the impact bar support. All right, as you can see, here's the first one. First impact bar pulled off. So there's 3 nuts on the inside. I was mistaken. It doesn't really matter. But I pulled this bracket off when I pulled the hitch off the car to reach those bolts, but you don't need to. There's one right on top of this right here, and then there's one to the side right here, and then one mirroring that on the other side. It's a little bit more difficult to reach without pulling that bracket off, but it's not that bad with like a little wobble socket or a universal socket. So moving forward. Next thing to do is remove the factory crash bar support, which is this right here. There's a bunch of these, 8 I think, T45 bolts, and then there's 2 13mm bolts right under the bottom here, and then that should come off. So as you may have noticed, I got a little ahead of myself, but the bar's off now. So the 2 bolts that are near the impact bar on this support, impact bar, whatever, have nuts on the back of them. So to get to that, you need to lower the exhaust, the rear muffler, and on both sides, plus the heat shielding, which you have to do anyway to mount the new hitch supports in. So I just went ahead and did that, and now we can start mounting the new impact hitch supports and whatnot. On the inside here, when we're putting the wiring in, let's see, we'll have to pull out this grommet. The hitch wiring goes through this grommet right in the center. It's got its own grommet on the wiring harness, and then it plugs in. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's right here on the passenger side. That's right where the harness plugs into. So like I said, we're going to mount these the new impact bars that go in place of those guys over there. So they're marked left and right. You can see this is the left-hand side one. After you have the support bar out of the way, this will slide right in here, and you'll have to slide the tailgate down just a hair to fit it. But I think I need to push some, well, I just knocked one of them out. I was about to show you. Underneath here, there is some rubber grommets where the bolts will go through to mount this thing. So I just knocked this one out. You can see the bolt holes just about lined up. Oh, and there goes the second. So that's flush all the way in now. You can see the 2 bolt holes line up. So I didn't even need to remove them. They fell out on their own as I slid it in. And then you'll see you got the bolt holes here to mount the hitch to it. So we'll mount these in place first with the correct hardware. There's a long bolt and a short bolt for each side. The short bolt goes on the rear. I can show you on this one here. The short bolt goes on the rear, well, the rear of this, which is forward in the car. That will go through there. And this one goes through the hole up to that point. So we'll go ahead and stick those in. So we got the new impact bars mounted in the chassis. As I showed you, those 2 bolts went in there. Now they're solid. So now the next thing to do is to slide the actual hitch receiver. It has 2 bolts fixed into it. Those will slide into the top hole here, which is bolted inside the trunk, and this one, which is bolted on the back here. And then these 2 are for these brackets that also go through to the trunk. And as we do it, we're gonna pop this grommet out and we're gonna feed, oh, there we go, pop the grommet out. And now we will feed the wiring harness through as it goes on. This probably would be a lot easier to do with 2 people, but we're gonna try to do it by myself because that's all we got. as you can see, we've got the hitch receiver all mounted up. Like I said, there's a bolt that goes through here to the back, on the top and the back, and then these two go straight through. It's same as we took apart in here. The one on top is here. The one on the bottom is on the bottom of the car, but then there's one on each side. There's one right there, and then one, oh, that's terrible, one on the other side. So we got those all tightened up, and now the next step is going to be hang the exhaust back up. We'll hang the exhaust back up, put the heat shielding back on with those two 10mm, the 4 13s on each exhaust hanger, its muffler, and then we'll come in here and we're going to dismantle this and put the brake controller module in. One thing you have to do, as you'll notice, I don't really want to flip this over, but here, I'll show you. So there's a different bumper support for, flipped it over. There's a different bumper support for the hitch. You can see it's all hollowed out here. I'm pretty sure you can modify this one. So here's my bumper and the bumper support in it. I'm pretty sure you can just cut out this center section. But since I went through the effort of refreshing that one, I'm going to pull this one out and swap them out. It's just a bunch of plastic clips. You can use an interior trim tool or screwdriver or something to pop all those out, and then put it back in, and then we'll reclip it up. There's like 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom. All right, we're gonna put in the trailer brake control module. This little gray guy, there's the part number if you need to buy it. So we're gonna do this live. There's 4, I mean, I don't know if this is still here. I'm pretty sure it's still here if you don't have air suspension, but there's 4 10mm on the outside of it. And this thing can lift, push out of the way. This is the spare tire carrier. And you can just flip that over and set it aside. So the next thing we'll have to do is grab I believe it's a 13, and we got to pull off this brace and this brace. We're going for this panel underneath of it. We'll set those aside so we don't lose them. All right, so now these brackets, these braces can just lift out of the way, and now we're pretty much there. So there's 3 Phillips screws left. There's one here on the right side. Now this panel should just pop right up. Bracket 2. We can pull this panel up. And here's what we're working with. So the trailer brake controller goes right on, I think it's this connector right here. You see this one's loose, and there's a little place to hook it. So there's actually 3 more Phillips, 1 here and 2 on this side. All right, now I'm gonna drop that screw down there and forget it forever. But I'm just gonna tip this up on its side, and you'll see that there's actually a little clip here, right where this, well, there's the harness. This will stay. There's the harness, and then it clips right into these pieces. So, all right, there you go. So that's it. It clips into these 2 little brackets and plugs in. Now we can slide this back down. There's little grooves for it to slide into on the side, and reverse order, put it all back together. Got the trailer brake module in, everything put back together up here. And I'm about to put the plastic pieces back in the corners here while I was about to. And then I remembered I had a couple extra bolts. So as you remember, I said I left this in here this time instead of pulling it out. Here's the one I pulled from the donor car. But I had a couple extra bolts when I was putting it back together here, and I remembered that there's bolts that for the hitch, or at least there was on this car that I pulled it off of. When the OEM hitch is installed, there's 2 extra bolts on here. So you can see there's like a rubber sealant in here, and I took a screwdriver and I just peeled some of it away, and then it reveals some threads. So when you're installing this, you're gonna want to make sure you get these bolts too. The big 16 millimeter heavy duty bolts, so 16 millimeter head. Anyway, you can see I just dig away some of this rubber stuff and expose the bolt hole, and there's threads there, so don't forget to do that. Okay, well, I'm finished with 100% the worst part of the job, which was pulling out this. I already had to do it once when I obviously pulled this off the scrap car, except it didn't matter because I didn't care about the bumper. This time I cared about my bumper, so I was much more gentle. And there's a million plastic clips in this bumper support, and it sucked getting them out and back in. Anyway, it's done. So now we're gonna slap that back on and be finished. And there you have it. OEM hitch install complete on an E53 X5. So thanks for following along. It really wasn't that bad. It took some time, but totally worth it doing the OEM hitch. The aftermarket Kurt ones are way easier to install, but they are no way as sturdy or strong and tie into the unibody as good as the factory OEM one. So that's it. Thanks for following along. Keep it rad.